The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of S4, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast or reproduction of this broadcast or podcast without express written consent of S4 is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Because we don't understand how life formed, it is difficult to estimate this probability. The likelihood of a complex molecule like DNA being created by random collisions of atoms in a primordial ocean is fantastically small. In an infinite universe, it would happen in some places, but they would be very far apart. If we want to find advanced intelligent life, our best bet is to listen for radio signals.
Look up to the stars and the forests that surround. Do you see them? Do you hear them? Are they there? SpacedOutRadio.com presents S4 with Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and friends. Also take the time to join the Forest Moon Paranormal Facebook group.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
Conspiracy, Area 51, Dogman, Ghosts, Cover-Ups, UFOs. The hidden will reveal itself.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4 with Eric Cooper, broadcasting live from the beautiful mountains of Concrete, Washington. Tonight we are having our monthly roundtable. On our panel tonight we have Eric Markham, our Forest Moon Paranormal Scientist, our Keith Andrews, Astrologer and Alien Specialist for Forest Moon Paranormal, Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson of Four Corners Paranormal, and Sam Cat Wynn of our Forest Moon Paranormal Aftercare team. Myself, Corey Reese, and your host, Forest Moon Paranormal Zone, Mr. Eric Cooper.
Yes, we're coming to you live from the very rainy / kind of, I don't know, snowy mountains of Concrete now. It's supposed to be February. That doesn't mean nothing. Groundhog actually saw, or didn't see a shadow, so we had, 6 more weeks. Anyway, for local news real quick, on the 24th, we do have a training at the Burlington Library, 2 o'clock on occult symbology. And without further ado, how's the panel doing tonight?
Doing just great things.
I'm paneling.
Doing good.
How about you?
Oh, over this crap. Yeah, the cough lingers, but my voice is coming back.
Freaking Klingons.
Ain't it though?
My
So
mind
who wants to
is
start off? Who wants to start off with the first question tonight?
Everybody raise your
Let
hand.
me do it. Let me do it. Just because I'm going to have to duck back in and out so much.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, they're starting to discover that, it used to be considered that the human brain lasted about 2 to 3 minutes after death. Well, new research is suggesting that there are parts of the brain that are not oxygen dependent, and like where the memories are. And possibly that part of the brain is still very much active well after death. Now, should we take that into account before we start harvesting organs, under the impression that, even though that body is considered dead, there may still be something in it that can sense this being cut apart?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this a little backwards. But if you want to take that to its ultimate level, you're going to have to deal with are we going to start burying the dead ever?
No. I mean, it's just that there's going to come a point where it rots to there's no activity. The brain is going to decompose. But we're thinking, current research is suggesting that there is activity in the brain far longer than was thought of before.
Okay, I got to interrupt here for just a second. Somebody has got speakers on in the background, and it's causing a big echo here, so we've got to mute those.
Okay, not me.
From what I was reading,
I'm clear.
In a
Is that better?
central location.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Of the brain. It's like not the whole brain, but it's in this certain part of the brain where this residual energy is. And to me, I believe it's, the human spirit itself, because we have energy orbs, etc. Like, we are energy, and then we continue to be energy. What is will be. It's pretty interesting that they actually have scientific proof of it now. I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, it's also, it kind of lends credence to that whole, that flashback of your life thing that people talk about at the end, end of life.
There's a movie based on that. I can't remember the name of it, but where they die and they go back and they have a movie that they actually watch for their life. And
Dead Again?
Of course, say again?
Was that movie Dead Again with Kenneth Branagh?
No, that was a reincarnation movie.
Oh, my bad.
No, this is back in the 80s or 90s. I can't remember the name of it.
Flatliners?
No.
No.
That way, it wasn't Flatliners. It was they had to watch a movie. They basically saw all the crap they did in their life, and they had to go back and fix it in order to move on. And I can't remember who's in it. I'll have to look it up. Now, I have a question, though. Is this anywhere near the pituitary gland?
Well, it's part of the limbic system, so it's near the amygdala, the cingulate gyrus, the thalamus, hypothalamus.
It's like lower down near the brainstem.
Let me see. Let me pull up a.
Because if I remember right,
real quick,
the pituitary gland.
Well, yeah,
is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the basically the cell phone of your soul. So on that regard, it would be even more interesting to study in relation to your memory.
What I'm looking at, it looks like it could be close. They're not showing the pituitary on this particular. But I just thought it was, I read that article and I was like, well, people who have near-death experiences talk about having a life review well, could this be scientific proof that the life review is actually, it's validating that?
No, I stand correct. It's not pituitary. I'm thinking the pineal gland.
Oh, pineal. Yeah, it's even. Oh, let me look.
Well, it's a very
medical relevance here.
It's a very good possibility that this could be scientific proof that there is some kind of review
the pineal
going
gland
on.
is right there by the. Yeah, it could very well have something to do with the pineal. It's in that region.
So since brain tissue,
if it has,
I'm sorry, go on.
if it has to do with the pineal gland, may account for why some spirits can communicate sooner than others. If you go by the theory that the pineal is the telephone of your soul.
Well, it just made me curious. It's like, okay, the memory is still playing. The body is dead. The blood is deoxygenated. The oxygen-dependent parts of the brain are shot. What we would consider day-to-day consciousness is gone. But that memory area is still active.
Right.
When all other life, everything else. So I think, okay, not only in death, but like with coma patients, have that, I couldn't find any research that they were looking to see if coma patients were active in this region of the brain as well.
That's interesting.
It makes sense.
Yeah, you just have to be. It's
now how.
Go ahead, Keith.
It's one of those questions that you really have to look at and ask just exactly how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go on that one.
Oh, as far when it comes to possibly harvesting organs out of, people that may still be conscious of the fact they're being harvested, I don't think there's a depth we shouldn't go down. Or, what about people that are, autopsied after death, or people that are cremated shortly after death? The Jews and Muslims that are buried within 24 hours after death? This opens up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this is Sam.
Go ahead, Sam.
I always understood it, and I'm going to kind of use an analogy here. When they're getting ready to test for like rabies in a dog, they can only test for do that test within a 24-hour period of time, because after that point, the brain is no longer viable for testing. The cells have died to the point that it won't show. So what if with the human brain, it's along those lines? The person needs to be absolutely dead for 24 hours or so before they should harvest.
Well, I almost wonder if that does, when you think of some of the other cultures and what they do, like I think it's the Tibetan, where, at the moment of death, they actually crack a hole in the skull. And there's a word they say.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name. Like hick or. I'm not. It's spelled H-I-K in English. I'm not sure what that would be.
And is that to release the soul?
That's exact. That's their. That's supposedly the idea is to
open the
release
windows.
the soul, right? And let them out.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on this idea. Here is that you're thinking of, okay, so you said it's the memories part of the brain, the non-oxygenated needed section of the brain that is staying active.
Yeah,
so it's not
it is
conscious, right?
Well,
so if it's not,
do we know that?
Well, I guess we don't really know that, but my thought on it is that, you know, if we're talking a part of the brain that is not part of the conscious part of the, you're conscious, because you were just saying a second ago, we're talking about after the oxygenated part of the brain, the part that would be your conscious, is dead. This one section is staying going. So by that theory, then the brain would technically be unaware that anything else was going on throughout the body, because only that little piece that has the memories is still activated. It's not the actual human conscious of it. And silence.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of along the lines of a recorder running after everything else is shut down, and all it's doing is running off a almost an internal battery, but not connected to anything.
The rest of the electric impulses from the body wearing itself out.
Yeah. It may be just it's just a thought process, but it may literally be just the bleed off point for the battery dying.
Well, I think if it were just impulses or the bleed-off effect, it wouldn't be just centered in that one area. It would kind of pulse out instead of just remaining in one spot.
Nope, because if you think about a battery doesn't bleed out all over the place. It bleeds out through an access point.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that if the rest of the cells around it are dead, there's nothing to bleed to.
Exactly. I mean, it's basically the last door that everything leaves.
Kind of like when the body goes into shock, everything comes to the center. When brain death occurs, everything would go, in theory, go to the center.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, Markham would know this one theoretically better than everybody else, but if you watch a cell die, right, it shuts down on the outside first, and then pulls itself inside.
Just kind of the whole idea of, even though we consider that person dead, they're, I don't think we understand what's going on inside the head enough, or the brain enough, to actually see that maybe death doesn't go, maybe we just haven't got that nailed down yet.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee that. I mean, let's face it, you look at my past, you can guarantee people haven't figured it out.
Well, going off this whole theory sure makes a Tibetan sky burial a lot more gruesome.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Yeah, no doubt.
So now here's the scientific $64,000 question. We're knowing what we know now, that section of the brain is still functioning. The question there would there be some way to tap into that and know what's happening just before it flickers out?
Well, the answer is yes. The problem is that the technology has not developed that far yet.
That we know of.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I think that we can't be that far from just being able to download knowledge. And once you get to where you can download, or, when the human brain can accept knowledge from a download, it can't be long before, it can go the other way.
Right.
But Markham, wouldn't an EEG be able to pick that up, or no?
No, because the EEG is, the electroencephalogram is all the outer areas of the brain. Not, this is all taking place like down in the meat, down in the core of the brain is where this functional stuff is.
Now I wonder if EMF would pick that up. Just a shot in the dark.
Probably not. I think if I remember, I think they were using MRI or they were using deep imaging to discover this.
Okay.
So it makes you wonder if you could find Broca's brain, or somebody stole Einstein's brain. But wouldn't it be interesting to take one of these preserved brains and submit it to the same and see if Albert Einstein's brain is still replaying his life?
I was thinking,
well, they didn't just take it; they cut it into slices and handed it out to different people. I mean, you might get a slice if you're lucky.
Now those are some weird party favors.
Yeah, they really are. Now we're starting to get into those Halloween things.
The big question would be is, if you had a brain preserved well enough to where the cells didn't die, could you somehow electrically, of course it would have to be very finite, but re-energize the brain to make it come back and the processes start functioning again?
Oh, just like Mary Shelley's,
Yeah. Frankenstein. But in a much more high-tech type of way.
Yes.
Well, oddly enough, if you take Mary Shelley's whole layout, technically speaking, that was pretty high-tech.
Yeah, well, that was based upon she was basing some of her stuff. I think it was on the guy Galvanization, his name. He was the one that was making severed limbs twitch with electricity, galvanic response.
Mm-hmm.
So she had seen a demonstration, because this was like, this was like sideshow magic stuff back in the day. Come see Dr. Galvani, whatever his name was, make a dead arm twitch. People were lining up to around the block to see that. It was the Star Wars of its day. So she saw that, and that's what kind of made her her whole idea, this bringing a whole organism to life using electricity.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many parameters, so many barriers that you got to look at, so many possibilities. And I mean, I can say from personal experience, when I first started looking at the triple helix, modern science didn't even know it existed. Right? Like I was trying to talk to the doctors 25 years before they knew about it, that it was there. So, it's quite possible that what they're talking about is, down the road they're going to find. From my standpoint, quite frankly, by the time what they're talking about, what people call the soul is long since gone, which means you're undoubtedly running on simply residual power.
Could somebody who, so now we have to say, okay, does this memory thing, could that account for a residual haunting? That enough energy or something happens to kick that cyclic memory mechanism into a situation where you see basically all a residual haunting is one of those recycling memories just spooling outside of a brain.
Technically, the answer would be yes, and it does. From that standpoint, when you start looking at the neural net and the connectivity between all of it, the answer to that is an unequivocal yeah. That would explain an awful lot of it.
So, kind of like a download from the brain into, let's say, there's a high level of quartz in the soil of a house or something like that. So basically like a download.
Or some kind of, like if I walk in, I got my first trimeter and I turned it on to the mag setting. I think magnetic, there's like magnetic 1 and 2, a high scale and low scale. As soon as I turned it on, I get I get a reading, so I had to get a hold of Mike Morin because I'd never dealt with one of these meters before. So I thought, well, is this thing working right? So if there's a certain amount of magnetism or a certain field in a given environment where a body dies, could these memory engrams be, recorded into that residual energy or that energy in the environment?
Well, from my standpoint, the answer is yeah, quite frankly, very possible. Does it mean the person is still alive? No. Okay, and there are way too many accounts where if you look at that side of it, where people, yes, some people undoubtedly could run into a snag, as in the occasional one may feel something, but the unfortunate part is that if you have to draw the line somewhere, simply because of the ramifications of not drawing the line. Like I said, you take that to its ultimate level, you've got a heck of a mess on your hands.
Well, maybe there comes a point where you say you make sure that all brain processes stop. We say, okay, here's this line where we consider death to be. And then you do whatever's necessary to get any other. I mean, there's a point where even if you brought somebody back, they'd be nothing. I've seen that happen in emergency rooms. We had a woman, they brought her in. The family didn't bother to tell us that she had a do not resuscitate. We busted our butts, got her breathing, and got her heart beating again. She was brain dead. Only that part of her brain that could continue breathing. We stopped bagging her, and she her heart just kept going. So, but even if she had been down a lot longer than the family wanted to admit too, so even had she, there'd have been nothing there that what we would consider, conscious thought.
But a lot of people, when they're going through that process of trying to let go and everything, don't even really think of that at first, They're just grasping at straws and trying to think of everything, to get to that point. And it's generally when it's too late that they do realize it and what damage has been done, It's a pretty hard process.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to flip this completely a different direction and go a little more science fiction, shall we say, which may not be so science fiction at some point. So having this knowledge, right, and knowing what's going on here with the brain afterwards, at what point are they going to start ingraining technology into the human body enough so much as to where that the person doesn't ever really die?
Oh, yeah, there's a really interesting series on Netflix called Altered Carbon that deals with that. It's these people continually download themselves. They back themselves up just like computers, and they have, if you're rich, you pretty much live forever because a version of your consciousness gets transferred to a new body every time you need it. Now, my biggest argument of that has always been, yeah, you've backed up the memories, you've backed up part of an experience, but can you back up a soul?
No, but if you
I think all you got is you might see a person walking down the street that looks like Corey Reeves, has Corey Reeves' memories, acts just like Corey Reeves, who's the copy. But the essential part that was the conscious, that core person that when you think about yourself exists. That's not. I don't think that's going to transfer.
That's when you're going to have no emotion, and you're going to be a cold, calculated individual with a bunch of memories.
Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen because the wetware is going to be the same in that the things that make the original Corey happy are going to make the downloaded Corey happy. I think the physical responses are there. I just think it's that kernel of that core of ourselves, that part of ourselves that knows that we are, I am Eric Markham. I know, that part of me. That
well,
is that going to go?
I'll argue that point on one note. When I was growing up, functionally speaking, I had no memory to work with, and I could tell you what had happened, right, by what I could see and that sort of thing. But growing up, frankly, I had two emotions. I was either dead calm, or I was dead calm and trying to kill somebody. There was no, I could look at photographs of my own family, and to this day, looking at photographs of me when I was a kid, I may just as well be looking at your photographs, right? Because I can tell you by looking at them, I was having fun. Did I have any feeling about it, or do I have any feeling about it? None. Okay, and if what you're dealing with is a recorded memory, much as you'll know that should have made them happy, and they may well be able to act as though they're happy, they really aren't. And that one I know from, like I said, that's from practical experience that I can tell you that one. Now, again, it's possible I'm an anomaly. God knows I am in more ways than I care to count.
Well, and here's another thought on that, too, is that, at this point right now, okay, if I wanted to take another computer with a blank hard drive, okay, and I wanted it to make it exactly like the computer that I've got right here, I can run a program that will literally take an exact carbon copy of the hard drive that's in this computer and imprint it on another hard drive, right? So then you have to look at the fact of what would happen if they could do that with the human brain. They could take a carbon electrical copy, memory for memory, impulse for impulse, the whole works, and just literally transfer it. Boom. To another brain.
Yep.
But it would still just be like a Xerox. The essential, I don't think that I just feel somehow that you could, there's going to be some essential part missing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a soul transfer.
Exactly. What makes us the soul, I'm trying to couch it in more of, I'm trying to couch something esoteric in a scientific term, but just that essential being that's inside us. I think we are, what I'm saying, okay, the best way to sum this up is we are more than the sum of our memories and the sum of our behaviors. There's an essential beingness inside each one of us. That part, as soon as the body dies, even if we transfer everything in the brain to a new, to a new hard drive, so to speak, there's got to be, I just don't think that essential being would get transferred. You could have this thing, this carbon copy, is Xerox walking down the street that acted just like you, continued your life, had the same behaviors, and for all intents and purposes, people that knew you before would probably not realize that they were dealing, or, they would, that, there wouldn't be a difference. But I don't think the soul, I just can't believe that the soul is getting transferred along with all the other data.
Well, and here's the important part of that is that that person would walk up to that other person who was the copy, and there is just something that you noticed. I mean, it's part of us. Most people don't even realize it, that everybody has a certain amount of what am I trying to find here? A certain amount of empathic ability or something of that sort, a sense to them.
Well, you can feel the energy, everybody has a certain amount of intuition and everything, and if there was a clone of Corey walking around,
it'd be empty.
Corey's best friend or sister or whatever would be like, all right, let me check for pods. Like, you're not Corey, you're somebody pretending to be Corey, because there's just that certain light in the eyes and there's that certain vibe that you feel off that person. And if it's off, whether there's something wrong emotionally with that person or, there's a clone involved, whatever,
Right.
Which begs the question that comes right hand in hand with science fiction at its finest. What happens when we start getting to the point of matter relocation, a.k.a. mechanical teleportation?
No, I ain't doing it, because the original is destroyed. No, the original is destroyed. Teleportation. In order for teleportation to work, the original is destroyed.
Yeah,
what comes out on the other end is not the original.
Reconfigurated. But no, it's not original. There's a couple specks off it here and there.
Even if it was the best process it could be, in order to be...
But what if that's what a doppelganger is?
Well, I'd love to say that was an idea, but unless we're... Now, if we're talking doppelganger as in a look-alike, quite possible. However, there is a race of doppelgangers, and that's a whole different ballgame. And them, if you actually take a genetic sample of them, are extremely different from the original. Boy, that brought quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear crickets.
You get that every now and then.
I'm multitasking.
Oh, in your case, no doubt.
But I've had a case of a doppelganger in our house, and I wasn't aware of it until my kids told me, later on. They did say, well, Mom, how come you ran in and locked me out of the house, and you're not even wearing that dress you were wearing before? And I was inside playing Texas Hold'em the whole time. There's a couple times that there's been a doppelganger scene. Like, one time she was doing the dishes, like, what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, she can come anytime she wants, right?
Yeah, come on over. Help me out, and I appreciate it. But, but they could tell it wasn't me, because it wasn't, like, it was different and weird and not the same. They just couldn't figure it out because they're little kids under the age of 10,
Well, was that necessarily a doppelganger, or was that possibly just a parallel dimension bleeding over into this one?
I could not tell you.
Yeah, this is where it gets into a really, really funky little place.
Yeah, the only thing that I know of it as, like, something that looks like me that's trying to take my place somehow is a doppelganger. But there's other, things it could be. To me, anything is possible. So I'm not going to say, no, that's not it, because I don't know.
From that other being's point of view, could it be they think they're you and you're trying to take their place?
Oh, and that is very much the issue.
It's like, who does she think she is trying to be? Yeah.
I actually ran into a situation where that was going on. Where we were dealing with a spirit that actually thought that it was still in the corporeal state, and it figured that the person, that the individual whose life it was trying to, shall we say, occupy, it figured it was under attack, and that somebody was trying to kill it. Technically, it was fair. Right. It's just it was a little late. It already happened.
That's kind of like that movie. What was that thing with Nicole Kidman, where her and everybody else was, but they were the ghosts. I forgot. I figured it out about 10 minutes into this movie. The others or something, I was like, hell, this is a reverse haunting movie, but it was still watching it play out was kind of fun.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you're watching science fiction, especially in our fields.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we figure out the plot line very quickly.
Well, one of my kids is a studied film in school, and it kind of ruined it for her because she, in the movie Into Darkness, she had figured out the ending when when you look at how much it costs to film a minute of anything, even an amateur film, it's like, like an indie film, I think it's $1,500 a minute. And if they're going to waste time showing a dead Tribble, you can bet your butt that somewhere along the line that dead Tribble is going to come back into the plot line. And kind of what
and suck your blood.
Well, it was a matter, in that movie, it was a matter of they could harvest something out. It comes back to life later because they injected Khan's platelets into it or something. Anyhow.
She wasn't that
but,
dark
pish.
Yeah, that was
wasn't that dark crystal with the nasty little Tribble?
Yeah, Into Darkness. But it was just a matter of knowing when you're watching something like that and you see some element that's like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? You know that's going to come back because they focused on it and they wasted $1,500, probably more like 10 on these big budget, Hollywood movies. God knows how many dollars a minute for that one image. So you know it's going to come back if they focus on something.
So here's another thought. What about those people who get body part transplants to them who have been said to take on the traits of the person that the transplant came from?
Yep.
Yeah, they get
That makes
cravings
sense.
that person had, and
well, the Greeks thought that the heart. There's a reason that, and this is really striking kind of close to home for me right now because I'm having some pretty severe cardiac issues.
Oh, you get
if I end up having to get a transplant, am I going to? The Greeks thought that the heart was the seat of consciousness, and when you think of how something affects us, you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you have a heartache, all this stuff that centers around the heart.
Well, oddly enough, when you actually look at the placement of the actual placement of the chakras, right, of the energy centers, the anchor point for the soul to the physical body is the heart. Okay, the chakra lines that they actually put out for the human body, politely put, are wrong. And the reason I say that is because I'm not entirely certain who the person was that decided that the chakras had to be in a perfect symmetrical line when the soul itself isn't built like a human body. If for the people that can actually see chakras, if you get away from the training, like I learned to see without training, and then I had it confirmed by another couple of energy workers, chakra specialists, that could not believe the fact that chakras could be moved because they could watch them move around me, right? And what I found was in this case where the Greeks figured it was the seat of consciousness, quite frankly, they were pretty much on the money from everything I've come to see.
Okay, I got to throw a question in here from one of our clients. And this is probably going to be more geared towards Keith, but anyone can jump in. So we have a client who's been dealing with spirits, and his question is, what is spirit and alien interaction? Do aliens deal with spirits? Do spirits deal with aliens? And can both affect a client?
Absolutely, the answer is unequivocally yes. Spirits are... Not all spirits ever were human. Aliens have their own...
Right.
Aliens have their own spirits, their own souls, their own past life and spiritual interactions. Okay, so all you're dealing with is another, where you're talking about aliens, all you're dealing with is another corporeal form who, when it dies, leaves the soul behind. When we take a look at past lives, all of somebody's past lives are not going to be human. Okay, because frankly, humans have not been around as long as the souls have.
Right.
So your client could quite conceivably, and it would not shock me at all, be dealing with both.
Well, and case by case, we deal with both. Now that you bring up the point that, so aliens can also have spirits, correct?
They absolutely do. That is what runs in their body.
Can alien spirits be abducting?
Only if they kill people. They can do an astral abduction, but if they're going to do an astral abduction, just like a human spirit could do an astral abduction, it's also known as an eviction. Okay, meaning
hang on just here just a second. Hang on here just a second. Sam?
Yeah?
Can I get you to hit your mute button while you're doing whatever you're doing there, because it is coming through really loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Keith.
No problem. What it boils down to, where you're talking about a spirit, like an alien spirit, doing an abduction, what you're talking about, human spirits could do the same thing. You're talking about essentially a carjacking. Okay, where they jump in, yank the original spirit out, and pop in to replace it. And where the struggle can come is while the abduction or the attempted abduction is going on, it's kind of like somebody trying to yank somebody out of their car, and the original driver hanging onto the steering wheel for dear life, which is where your guy's ability to step in and stop an abduction from happening in that case is very easy to comprehend.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Not generally, but okay, I'm offline.
Oh. So alien spirits can be seen easier from the astral. I got that.
Yes. Mind you, in all fairness, human spirits can be seen more easily from the astral.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, every case is different. Some cases we're actually dealing with spirits in a home, and they're dealing with abduction at the same time. They're two different situations going on. That happens all the time. But we're dealing with a client who has no UFO activity, which is a common factor with abductions. Right. But in his case, has no UFOs, but feels like there's an alien presence.
Yeah. So you're probably, my suggestion for your team would be to go in and look for somebody trying to not so much abduct as evict the client. And because if they're successful, what you end up with is somebody that looks, acts, behaves like the client, but there's that funny, quirky difference that isn't going to mesh for the people around them. Okay.
Wow.
Now there's cause for thought, isn't it?
A little bit.
What?
See, what you're looking at there is something that is good, because a spirit cannot physically abduct somebody. Okay. What they can do, a spirit could take somebody and amplify their vibratory rate to the point that the person vanishes and is stuck in a different vibratory rate. But they can't do anything to them, as it were.
So, from the astral team perspective, if we raise the vibration, we can stop it.
Bingo. It's kind of like...
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because what you'll do is you'll interrupt their ability to mesh.
Right. And that makes perfect sense.
Gee, I'm glad that made sense.
No, it did, because we do it all we do it all the time when we're fighting abduction situations anyway.
Yeah. That's where that biomagnetic flux comes in, real convenient. Because once you can modify it, you can stop a lot of the complications. As a matter of fact, once you can modify that, you can stop the functionality of an implant.
Right. Which I don't think we've tried. I don't think we've tried that side exactly yet, because usually when we block the implant, it's just basically a burst of energy.
Yeah, you short the poor thing out.
Right.
See, the funny thing, where I look at that is you short it out, and what that does from a, if you will, mechanical standpoint, is it prompts whichever race picked the person up to put the implant in, picks them up, and modifies it. It picks it up and replaces it. If you modify the biomagnetic flux in it, then it essentially sets up a virtually undetectable loop where the people monitoring that particular implant are seeing normal behavior, but it's actually having absolutely no bearing on the person. Kind of like when you put a loop on a video camera, and you can't tell, on a security camera, and you can't see that there's a difference. Same issue. Just another way of doing exactly what you guys do in the first place.
Right. But even when we sort it out, the alien, the particular race that's doing the abducting is still able to reactivate it.
If you short it out, it can be repaired. If you put a loop, they don't know it was stopped in the first place.
See, we've only been doing this a year, actually, this month, so we haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, understandable. See, this is one of the things that the off-worlders have a problem with, is mankind, and I'll use mankind's definition of it, mankind can control zero-point energy, which is what is used when we're talking about that biomagnetics. Okay, and the human mind can actually modify it, which makes it unstoppable from the alien perspective. Because they haven't. That's one of the things that humans do that off-worlders haven't figured out yet.
Okay. And I have a really quick update for our locals that are listening. It is snowing in concrete, and it is sticking. Wonderful. Snow on my birthday. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mother Nature.
Glad I'm sleeping in tomorrow.
I don't get you.
No. When it snows or rains, I sleep very well. I think it's the drop in the barometer or something. I'm not sure.
I hear sleep is overrated.
I sure hope so. My concern, though, is that I keep getting told that you sleep less as you get older. I'm down to like 3 or 4 hours a night. I mean, this could be a problem.
I agree. I fully agree.
I heard you needed less sleep as you got older. So if it works out that way, it's just uncomfortable, but it's supposed to be, I guess.
in all fairness, I don't find it uncomfortable at all. You know.
I do. I remember when I could sleep in all day and never had an issue, and I can't sleep past 10 anymore. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, all you got to do is stay up later.
I do. My bedtime's like 3 or 4 in the morning. Come on, give me a break.
Wait a minute, you stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, you're sleeping till 10? Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
I stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, and I get to stay to sleep until like 6, maybe 7.
Well, I said the latest I get to sleep in is 10. Generally, it's about 7 or 8, being I have kids and all, you know.
Oh, you know, if you shoot one, the rest will behave. No, don't do that.
I've been getting to sleep a lot at like 2 a.m. recently. I lay there and I can't go to sleep. And then I'm waking up at 6 to go to work. It's been a little rough.
Yeah, my problem is I'll get 2 or 3 hours at night, and then like tonight, this is why I said it was a good thing my son was around, because tonight I sat down, laid down to stretch my back, and just was gone for an hour and a half. You know, so I managed to get 4 hours between the night. You know.
That sounds about like my nights.
Yeah.
All right, it's about 5 minutes out. We're about to our break at the top of the hour. So when we come back, Sam, be thinking of your first question. And if you want, go ahead and take us to break, Corey.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that there. When we come back from break, we're going to continue our monthly round table. Tonight on our panel, we have Eric Markham, our Force Moon Paranormal Scientist, R. Keith Andrews, astrologer and alien specialist for Force Moon Paranormal, Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson of Four Corners Paranormal, Sam Cat Wynn of Force Moon Paranormal Aftercare Team, myself, Corey Reese, and Eric Cooper of Force Moon Paranormal. Join us every Saturday night at midnight Pacific Standard Time. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. Check out Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott Monday through Friday, and Spaced Out Weekend with Joe Roop Saturdays and Elizabeth Anglin and Cosmic Passport on Sundays, all at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also check out The Fringe FM with shows like Lighting the Void, with Joe Roop, and a plethora of other good shows. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed on tonight's show by tonight's hosts and guests are not necessarily those of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays, Spaced Out Sundays, or spacedoutradio.com. Listener discretion is advised. And now back for hour number 2, we have Corey Ruiz, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, and S4. You can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. And for more information on S4, visit spacedoutradio.com. And now, here's Eric Cooper and Corey Ruiz.
All right, welcome back, all of you. For those of you just joining us tonight, we are having our monthly roundtable show. On our panel tonight, we have Eric Markham, R. Keith Andrews, Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson, and Sam Cat Wynn. Welcome back, everybody.
And thanks for having us.
Hey. Hello.
And there's the puppies.
So, here we go.
Talking.
Sam, what's your first question for the roundtable?
Okay, my first question, I've been doing this with Forest Moon Paranormal for a little while now, maybe a month, and I was wondering, is it important to deal with a haunt or entities in a home with that individual's faith, so to speak? Kind of an example would be, would Wiccan ritual have any effect on a Catholic spirit?
Probably not.
Excellent question, and you know that actually goes with when you die. If you were an atheist when you died, you're going to be an atheist as a spirit. So, say somebody brings in a Catholic priest, is a Catholic priest going to be able to remove an atheist spirit? Probably not.
The answer to that is actually, oddly enough, yes. And the
It depends on how strong your faith and belief is.
Not really. And here's why.
Okay, how's this work?
Well, having been there multiple times, I'm talking from practical. When you die, you find out one thing very important. Faith is an interaction that is built inside the corporeal body. when you pass away, you don't have the problem of separate faiths. You find out the reality behind it, where they're all one, quite literally. So whether you're Jewish or Catholic or Sikh or atheist, Wiccan, doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter if you're not of a faith of this planet. Once you step over, you leave that faith behind, just like you leave the physical body behind.
But we're not talking about spirits that have stepped over. We're talking about spirits that are here and haunting people.
Exactly.
And these spirits are in life, or in death, what they were in life. They're not just going to change all of a sudden. They're not spirits that are passed over. They're spirits that are trapped here, and, you know, there's so many ways to go about it. Every case is different, but there's no leaving it behind because they're still here.
So it's been an experience though, with the cases that we do, that we've had clients that actually called in a Catholic priest, they called in a shaman, they called in evangelical ministers. Spirits do not respond. It takes our team. It takes our team to go in and use spirit guides, depending on the individual, on the astral team, that passes that spirit over.
And that's because the moment you're dealing with spirit, you're taking the translation of faith out of the equation. Now, they may still think in terms, like the spirit that's there, may still think in terms of their referential points from whatever faith they came from. But they react to the way that soul works.
Well, I'm talking about when I say faith, I'm talking about the person that's doing this ceremony or whatever they're doing to cleanse their house and stuff. You know, the spirit is its own entity. It has its own energy. But the person that's doing the ritual or the ceremony, it's all in their faith, how strong it is, how strong their faith, mostly in themselves and the strength of themselves, because you are stronger than this entity. It doesn't want you to believe that, but you are. And that's the main thing. So it's the faith and the strength of that person doing the ceremony or whatever to cleanse the place.
But now you've gone into the other realm there. Now we're not talking about the faith of the person. We're talking about the will. And that is definitively something that if your faith in your own ability is not stronger than what the spirit's faith in their ability is, you're not going to be able to move it. But it's got nothing to do with the actual religious belief. It's got to do with if you will, their own sense of focus, like the individual
energy and intent.
So will to will.
Yeah. It's will to will. It's a battle of wills as to whether or not you can modify it. Because on the astral plane, and anybody that works over there, I'm pretty certain knows this, it's a battle of wills whether or not things work the way you'd like them to.
And what's cool with how we work, sometimes, the family member of the one that's passed over will come in and actually help guide them across, which is unique. That helps smooth things over anyway.
Well,
and when
it's so much easier.
And when I'm providing aftercare assistance, I try to make sure that, not only are we putting our best practices, so to speak, the education for the client out there, but I'm also putting out there the client's specific religious beliefs into the mix so they feel much stronger about what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Well, most definitely, because it's all about clients' well-being and health as well as the spirit that's passed over.
Yeah, give yourself a pat on the back for that, because I've talked to a lot of people that are in this kind of field and claiming to work towards helping spirits, and they do not take that into consideration at all.
No, they don't.
Yeah, This is just another, quite frankly, another pat on the back for Forest Moon Paranormal itself, that you guys go way beyond normal.
Well, you ain't kidding there.
Oh, yeah, we've had some crazy stuff of late.
Oh, man.
So, anyone else got anything to add to that, to Sam's question?
That gotta be a no.
All right, Corey, what's your question for tonight?
Why is everybody in the paranormal seem to be so unlucky? I mean, I see so much bad luck, oddball things happen to people. Just, sometimes it seems like those in the paranormal just have a crap day for no reason. Why is this?
Well,
I think
because... Go ahead.
I think it's because, we're helping people and we're putting that positive energy out there. And there's negative energy out there that wants to get rid of that, They don't want that out there at all. So they're going to put extra energy into taking us down, and that's what happens. Like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But yeah, you have that light on you because you're exuding light, and so the dark is going to come in and try to take you out. And you just got to, keep swimming. You got to keep going and do what you do and keep lifting each other up and helping each other out of the darkness and helping each other, through this crazy world, because it's all connected, and a lot of people don't believe it, but that's why we're here, to help those that are going through this, to know they're not crazy and this stuff is actually happening and there is a way to fix it.
Yeah, ultimately, I do agree with you. I mean, realistically, with the people in the paranormal, you're open because you're working on so many different things at the same time, and you're open to so much. It enables a lot more overflow from just the passers-by. And, ultimately you are right. You're putting so much light out working in that field that, and even for the people that are just in that field and not trying to help other people, but they're more open to it, it's very much like opening the floodgates because you're picking the energy up off of everything.
Here's something to think about as well. We deal with 5 cases a day globally. We make enemies everywhere we go. I'm not talking humans, but we make enemies in everything we do. Now, the reason you don't see so much bad luck with other teams is, well, they're superficial. Face it. It is what it is. They don't go deep. They get a pretty little picture and a cool EVP. That's as far as they go. We go in, we combat, we remove, we deal with the issue. The issue is the enemy. They all have friends. So yeah, they're going to target us. That's why our own protection, our own shielding is what keeps us safe.
And the combined effort of the people that you're trusting becomes paramount.
Right.
Right. I think of it in the sense of everyone in Gotham can see the bat signal.
Yeah, ultimately very correct. Of course, they can also see the nuclear explosion. Well, no, those are the people outside of Gotham.
Right.
I can also see Uranus.
And we went there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Saturn, serious. Come on.
It's when you put yourself out there and you're willing to step into that light to do something is when the darkness, is going to see you.
Yeah,
and
it does.
For me, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
and ultimately,
it focuses on you. It wants to take you out because everybody else, we're not sheeple. We're different. We're light bringers, and
I don't know.
they don't
I'm
like
not
it.
different. I've been this way all my life.
Hey, I worked long and hard to be this weird. Okay, so give me a break.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
I
it came
didn't.
naturally for me.
I didn't have to work at it at all. Trust me.
I'm from California. I'm this weird naturally.
Yeah, depending on where from, you really have to question some of what you guys are doing down there. But yeah, that's another issue.
Well, I'm in Tennessee now, so that makes it even more fun.
I feel that too.
Talk about that signal.
Right.
Yeah, there's another term for that, eh?
I thought we weren't allowed to say those words on the radio.
That's why I just left it to your imagination.
We're dancing around the bush.
Well,
I just say bad words and be done with it.
Yeah.
the reason I brought this question up is that I've seen, many a times where it seems like, lots of people that are in the paranormal itself, I mean, they have either financial troubles or, all of a sudden they have weird health problems, just any number of just really messed up crap. And it's just like, why would this be? You see it almost more per capita in a paranormal than you do regularly. And it's like, geez.
Absolutely. And it's one of the problems I've found with many people in the paranormal, and I'm going to limit that for this issue into the people that directly work with energy and specifically Reiki. People that are trained in Reiki are taught to draw energy into their bodies. And the moment you're taught that, all of that stuff that's out there, be it good, bad, or indifferent, you're pulling into your body, you're going to overload your body's ability to cope, which is why you keep getting told you have to clear it, and you've got to ground it the whole 9 yards. And specifically when you're dealing with that, I've seen people heal critical illnesses by absorbing them, and then they end up suffering from said critical illness. And that's because you're drawing it in. Now, I can only presume that when you're dealing with people that don't work with the energy, they're still instinctively, essentially doing the same thing. Because if you're in the paranormal, whether you believe, and there are people, as we all know, that will believe in UFOs but won't believe in ghosts and vice versa. But you still hear about what Reiki is and how to deal with it if you're working in that field at all. And that in itself will cause what you're referring to.
I don't know if I'm really on board with that, because my family's been dealing with curses as far as deaths and terrible things happening in the family since I've been around, since before I've been around. But, and, my mom wasn't into Reiki. I'm not into it. I have friends that are into it. I know, there's points, there's different colors, there's different things it does, but I'm not into that. But I do know there's energies that exist, et cetera, et cetera. I think, as long as you know that other side is there and you open yourself up to it, you're generally an open target for anything. And you don't have to be doing anything in particular. You don't have to be dabbling in the occult. You could be going to a music festival or a freaking birthday party and something attached to you or something want to attack you. Or, and then there's the topic of curses. It could be a freaking curse, There's different things that are out there, and it's hard to really pinpoint it sometimes. But, yeah, there's really no explanation except for you kind of draw that energy to you by opening the window or the doorway or just being who you are spiritually.
I've been dealing with energy for quite some time without even realizing what it was, but it seemed to me that I learned early on to kind of filter what I was pulling in. So I don't know if that helps or not, but like I say, I just brought it up because it just seemed awfully strange that seemed to happen so much.
And it is, in that respect, it really is a little on the odd side. You were one of the lucky ones. I've dealt with a lot of people that never figured out the filter thing at all. As a matter of fact, and you find this a lot in the number of people that are actually empathic and don't know they're empathic. And until you point out what empathy is, they haven't got a clue that that's why they're doing it.
Right.
You know, in your case, you had, like I said, you're one of the ones that lucked out. You figured it out early.
Yeah, that and shielding.
Yeah, shielding,
well, the bad
grounding, those are all important.
Well, the bad things about it, like I went through 53 years of life before I discovered that part of the problem I had dealing with people was that I was an empath.
Yeah.
You know, if I'd have known that when I was much younger, there's a lot of crap I went through, a lot of situations I found myself reacting to that, you know, if I had known what it was and how to control it, you know, my whole life story would be a lot different.
Well, this will
be
be
getting bombarded. When you're sitting there getting bombarded by other people's anger and other people's, you know, conflict and just, you know, all this stuff's hitting you at a young age, and it just sort of overwhelms who you are. That's, you know,
it makes you feel like an outcast because you're different and you know you're different and you don't know why. And I didn't realize what it was for me until about, 3 or so years ago. I realized, empathic, apathic, intuitive, like so many things. And there's things that I'm learning all the time that I am. It's just because you don't know yet, and your knowledge is constantly expanding, and so that's why it's important to keep an open mind. Otherwise, you can be blind to so many wonderful facts about yourself and the world around you.
Well, it's not just that, but it's how you affect the others around you as well. I mean, I grew up in a household where, because of my empathy and other little gifts, so to say, my father would constantly get mad at me and say that I'm being melodramatic. When, I'm 5 or 6 years old and I'm simply crying because I don't know how to deal with the emotions around me.
Yeah, I've got a client I'm working with right now that only about a month ago, and this guy is in his late 50s, only just found out he's an empath. And I'll tell you, as soon as he figured that out, we all of a sudden started peeling off the illnesses he'd been dealing with because they weren't his.
Yeah. That stuff.
Well, another thing too, depending on the level of empath, when you get out into a crowded area or something, and there's a pretty uniform emotion happening over something, depending what it is or how strong it is, you can absorb that, and it'll literally amplify with you, and it'll feed back.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a real vicious cycle if you've got another empath handy.
Oh, boy.
Especially if they don't know they're empathic.
See, I used to have some trouble with that, where I would get that and it would amplify, and then everybody around me, if I walked away from that and it was still with me, anybody around me in the new spot would be like having the same problem. Yeah. So you gotta be careful of that. That's for sure.
Well, that's one of the things I find in my world, in my work, that I deal with a staggering amount of is pointing out to people that, look, the reason you're having these problems is so blatantly obvious from my standpoint, because I've been, I was one of the lucky ones. I grew born knowing I was this way. Sad to say, that didn't make it fit in any better. We're back at feedback.
Yeah.
Hello, turn off your speakers.
I didn't know we had an English.
My biggest thing was starting to learn how to take something like, if it was high anxiety or anger or something like that, if I was pulling it in, especially if I didn't realize it at first, was to be able to take that energy and switch it.
Yeah.
Turn it around, change it to something else.
So what I tell people a lot of times when they're having... Oh, come on, speakers. when they're having problems with negative energies, try to keep everything positive. If you feel like your thoughts are going to a negative place, reroute your thoughts. If your first instinct is to snap at somebody, stop, breathe, react positively. Put out positive energy and rewire everything. If you're putting out positive energy, the negative entity is not going to have anything to feed off of, and it's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, but they're so much fun to play with when they come around you at that point.
I'd just like to be rid of them because I've had enough. Just move along. Go on with your bad self. I can do bad all by myself. Just go on.
No, yeah. I remember dealing with one where the guy showed up, and during our interaction, he looks at me and he says, I've seen you in hell. And I looked at him, I went, well, that's cute. I said, you already know that hell won't hold me, and you're still trying to annoy me? I said, is this the kind of stupidity that killed you in the first place?
Yeah, they just like to toy with your mind, They think they're more powerful, or they want you to think that, and they're so ridiculous. It's so funny.
Yeah, I kind of gave up my mind years ago. I found it was getting in the way.
No comment.
Well, if everybody
all right.
they're really not that powerful, and that they're stronger than that, then they'd be fine. But everybody wants to feed into the whole Hollywood haunted and all this other crud that comes from it,
So who hasn't asked a question yet? I think Tess.
Well, I've had a lot going on lately, but one thing that I was reading about that I hadn't really thought about with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, people are like, well, it's, the certain species, or it's an alien, or it's something from another realm. But then another thing I was reading is, what if it's a ghost? Like, have you ever thought of that?
A ghost that can leave 11-inch footprints.
I like him.
Yeah, right? Well,
that's a cool idea, though.
Ghosts can shake houses.
That's true. Yeah. That is an interesting idea. Like, okay, it's the ghost of like some pre-human ancestor, and that's why we can't catch it, why it's blurry in pictures, and it does seem to share a lot of characteristics with a ghost.
Yeah, and I never thought about it till I read that. I was like, holy crap, that totally makes sense.
And maybe because we don't understand the social structure and its religious beliefs, we can't get rid of them.
Well,
it's an interesting idea and technically possible. From what I've seen, and in this case, literally felt hand in hand. They're very real, very physical, from what I've seen. But the concept of it being a ghost, or at the very least, some of the images that people are seeing, or some of the sounds they're hearing, being of a ghostly nature or of an echo nature, if you will, makes total sense. To at least explain some of the various sightings.
Yeah.
But the actual Bigfoot itself, and again, I'm probably a bad example, but considering from my standpoint, I remember a young one actually finding me because I got lost, taking me back to its parents, who subsequently got me back to my campsite. And in answer to the question as to how they figured out the campsite, well, tell them this a big metal box that they're looking for. They knew what it was. Not to mention fire.
And your scent.
And my scent, yes.
Are you saying that ghosts don't have families?
Oh no, ghosts absolutely have families. But ghosts and this is why I said I'm not necessarily a good example, because I can feel the physical side of a ghost. So is it technically possible? The answer is yes. But there's too many things about it that the concept of it only being ghost, there's too many variables that don't add up. At least not for me. But it would explain many of the pictures being foggy or out of focus.
The thing is, though, and I have heard stories about Bigfoot taking kids back to their families and whatnot. So very, very common, depending where you're at. I do believe there's six dimensional. I don't believe there's a spirit. I could see.
You're muffled again.
Like you said, I could see. Like you said, Keith, the Bigfoot knocks, whatnot, being similar to ghosts, but ghosts, generally speaking, don't leave footprints that are 12 to 14 inches long.
And that you can get a cat.
Yeah, I actually had a ghost that left a footprint in our wooden floor. It actually burnt a footprint into the floor. Not the foot, but the boot print that she was wearing, and it was like an old 18 whatever model boot. But ghosts leave a footprint. They can apply pressure. They can whack things across here and there. But I am on the page where I think there can be ghosts of Bigfoot, and I think they still exist because I know there's some up here in Colorado, not too far from me. So I just thought it was an interesting thought, because I'd never thought of it that way. I've always heard of other realm and alien and going through a freaking, doorway or whatever to another place, or, hiding underground. I'd never heard the ghost portion of it. I thought it was cool.
My thought process on Bigfoot is not even necessarily interdimensional, but has the ability to cloud men's minds.
Absolutely.
It's any being that lives long enough adapts and learns how to adapt. And if you're going to be a being like that that's going to live out, in the woods or wherever else, and you don't want to be found and you want to stay away, the best way to do it is to make certain that, whoever's looking for you doesn't think they can find you. And that you look invisible to them. So.
Well, yeah, they're a master of camouflage. Like, they blend in really quick.
I think it goes deeper than that.
Where at first you only see one trying to hide behind a tree, but then I was like, look, there's like two more. There's like a mama and a baby one in the background. And we replayed it, and she's like, holy crap, it is. Like, they're just so masterful at hiding and, predicting what elevation and whatever, because you got to consider all these things when you're looking at a subject. You try and hide, and they're over here. You got to be very masterful, and it could be a whole thing like
kind of shamanic, Predator. Isn't it?
Yeah, and in all fairness, it is. Their religion is of what you would consider the shamanic or potentially the Wiccan perspective.
Well, magic is one of the oldest practices, so.
I was just thinking, I totally agree with Tess in the standpoint of the physical and the spirit. I mean, how long have they been in those areas? There's bound to be spirits from the dead there, and I don't see any reason why, the spirits wouldn't necessarily be helping the living to stay hidden.
And that would make total sense, really. Because, as we all know, or at least I think we all know, the spirit realm, especially if you're working in the light, the spirit realm does go out of its way to give you a hand. Yeah. Well, that was a cute thing to echo.
Sorry. At least I'm not drinking beer yet. I mean, come on.
Yeah, when was doing the beer thing, I didn't drink it either. I went straight for IV.
Right.
Oh, no.
But, no, what I was thinking, I mean, and it could very well be the spirit of the past, because, I mean, we're still talking about primates. The spirit of the past that obscure the camera lens, or, you know, if you see a living one, all of a sudden your attention is drawn to one or two spirits, so the living one has a chance to get away.
Bingo.
Well, yeah, and I think they're more, I think of them as more Homo sapien than primates. You know, they have more of the human thing going on. They're just extra hairy. They're probably from Arkansas or something, you know?
I'm just going to leave that alone.
Just speaking from experience, you know, I'm from Arkansas. My dad was a hairy son of a bitch, and he wore size 14.5 shoes.
Language.
We actually had maintenance come into our room once, and they saw his sandals, and they were like, "Holy crap, Bigfoot lives here!"
Yeah, we could go all kinds of sideways on that, but you know. But you know, the reality is, it undoubtedly, and in all fairness, I never thought about the shall we say, ghostly aspect of it. But it makes total sense when you combine the ghostly aspect with the physicality of it. It certainly explains why there are so many sightings that people can't get a physical picture on, because we know that ghosts show up in pictures better than they show up to the natural eye.
And we also know that there's not only human ghosts, there's animal ghosts, you know. There's so many different ghosts. Why would there not be a Bigfoot ghost?
You know,
and I now know there's alien ghosts.
There are. The one I get a kick out of is that there are also plant ghosts.
Well, yeah, because it does. It has its own spirit. It has its own energy. I talk to my plants all the time.
Yeah, I love the one I've got. Quite literally, I've got names for all of mine because they keep telling me what they are, but I got one that's addicted to coffee. And he gets right upset.
They really actually like coffee grounds. Somebody told me that. I've never fed my plants coffee grounds because I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yes.
But they've had good luck with it.
You start that, they are going to complain if you can hear the plants, and you give them coffee to start with, most of them will complain if you stop.
Well,
well, if I don't have my coffee every day, I'll complain too. So. I understand.
Somebody stops giving you coffee, you're going to complain too, so, you know.
Hey,
where's the coffee?
You know what, Corey? And Corey just found out the coffee pots break.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Now there's a heart render for you.
Oh man, that freaked me out. I'm like, wait, you can't break the coffee pot. No.
Corey, this is why I've got three in backup. This is why I've got the backups on.
We have our Kurg and we have our backup. I totally agree.
Hey, I got a Keurig, and then I've also got chocolate covered coffee beans. I'll eat them suckers if I have to.
Oh, holy crap! You're evil, Corey. Why you got to talk about chocolate and coffee beans? No, what are you talking about?
All right, Keith. What's your question for the night?
Well, it dawned on me the other day. I'm wondering why it is that so many people, why you guys figure, so many people that theoretically, when I talk about investigate the paranormal, I don't mean the paranormal groups. I mean the reporters that theoretically want to talk to the people involved. Those reporters, why they insist on approaching it with the idea that it's totally it doesn't exist, that the paranormal doesn't exist. And with the reporters I've talked to, they seem to have this idea that if we announce that it's not there, then it's not there. You know, these are the people that, in my eyes, are supposed to be they're supposed to investigate with an open mind and just report what their findings are. And I'm wondering why so many are actually caught up with the idea that we've got to debunk it and say it doesn't exist.
That's mainstream thought. If they start sounding like a wackadoodle, no one's going to want to hire them.
Well, I also think that if you put energy into something, you know, it helps it exist, like thought forms, etc. So maybe that person is thinking, well, maybe if we put it out there this way, it'll counteract that effect and take power away from it. I mean, there's really different ways to look at it.
Well, part
maybe
of the problem,
if you go out and do a story and you expect the worst and something better happens, you'll just automatically have an amazing story.
Yeah, part of the problem is that anytime you start going mainstream, you know, you're talking about the paranormal, anything that isn't considered by society to be normal. And nobody wants to, that is out in the public light, wants to look unnormal. So the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to make a wisecrack about it. You know, they're going to make it look like you're just a funny guy. You know, this is some funny stuff, but no big deal. Just so that they, even if they may have some interest in it, I mean, may actually have some real interest in it, they'll do that just so that the rest of society, they think, won't look at them like they're nuts.
And you know, the funny part with that in mind that I find really fascinating is I do agree with you, they don't want to look abnormal, and yet virtually every reporter wants to stand out as something beyond the normal at the same time.
But not paranormal.
Yeah.
It goes back to the theory. It goes back to the theory of the high school jock who's secretly best friends with the biggest geek.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it goes down. But if you want to look at it that way, you have to look at peer pressure.
Yep. You're going to believe something in your home where you won't admit to your boss that this is the way you believe. Because, you know, you still got to be able to put that paycheck in.
Yeah, that's where I fit way outside the norm. I told my boss what he could do with his order, with his rules. Actually, in all fairness, I didn't tell him what he could do. I just told him what I was going to do. And I'm still working 8 years later.
And if you want to take it a step further, you got to look at religion, because most mainstream religions, anything that's paranormal is a demon.
Absolutely.
Right.
That I agree with, which is way off, as we all know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because why would you be given these gifts if they were, you know, wrong? It's ridiculous.
Well, I've always, when I look at that side of it, from the standpoint of investigation, and I'm certain that you guys all fall into this, you go in there with the idea of, I'd like to know what's going on, but I'm not going to say it's real or not real until I've got the evidence in front of me that points in one direction or the other. And then I'm going to watch for something that doesn't fit.
Well, here's what's cool. And, you know, Chris Dodge, one of our members, got these postcards made up for Forest Moon Paranormal. So I started going to stores today and getting them put up. And so far, out of 5, the response I got was actually phenomenal. Like, oh my God, there's a paranormal emergency response team. So does that mean, like, if I'm being attacked by something, you guys will immediately come? Like, that's exactly what that means. So it's a matter of getting the word out to the right sources. Going into the mainstream media, I get a complete blackout. You go to the general public, you do get a better response.
Absolutely.
Well, that being said, that also depends where you are. Don't forget, we're in Washington here. I mean, it's a lot more liberal, a lot more open-minded. You know, and I know people don't like the word liberal sometimes, but you know what? That's reality. There's a lot more open-minded stuff. here. You start getting down in some of the southern states and stuff, the Bible Belt, you wouldn't be.
Oh, come on! They'll welcome you into the. They'll welcome you into the barbecue.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
Okay, but and I'm going to sound a little bit southern here for a second or so. Where I live, there's actually like snake handling churches and that type of thing, and a lot of the stuff that I believe with the Appalachian magic and things is stuff that I don't dare speak about in public. Because, I don't want the car to get hurt or anything else. This is Sam.
Yeah.
So, I've got to be real careful what I do in public because of, the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Oh, yeah, you'd be blackballed in a half second.
Yeah.
It wouldn't take.
But you're also talking the Appalachians where they practice folk magic.
But
there's so much stuff going on out there. I'm originally from Arkansas, and that's where most of my experiences were. But there are people that are really, strict. Like one of my aunts is like, well, that's demons, ghosts are demons, and blah blah blah. So what you're doing is evil. But I don't know. There's the other side of it too.
Yeah, where I'm at,
most people that I've talked.
Go ahead.
Oh, most people I've talked to have had experiences, but there's the old school too that's still there that believe otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're talking about the Appalachian traditions, almost everyone's open to it. But the moment it takes that kind of magic twist to the same exact traditions and beliefs, you have a target on you.
Yeah, then you start having people beating down your door wanting to save your soul.
Yeah.
Or do other things.
Yeah,
right.
And it's not always nice.
We don't got that problem in the mountains.
No,
not in
not
Washington,
here.
anyway.
No. Very, very,
they
very
know
minimal.
better.
We don't get a lot of visitors out here.
Well, and it's kind of one of the reasons why we're trying to get, our astral team and stuff, moved out from some of the places they are out here because, then they don't have to be so tight-lipped and stuff around because a lot of them live in the Bible Belt and other places like that. So, they're very much wanting to get out of those places and get here. We've got them coming here pretty soon on some of them. Markham, unfortunately, with a few things that he's got going on. We're not sure, when he'll be able to move out, but still hoping he can.
See,
I'm still I apologize.
Oh, no,
I was just going to say, I'm still hoping that you guys can get me hooked up with a team from Boots on the Ground out in this area because it's needed, especially with the rampant belief structure of the old ways, and the Trail of Tears goes right through the area that I live in. We need a Boots on the Ground team out here.
Sam, you should just start your own.
That's what I was just going to.
Yeah.
Well, it is definitely a thought. I've got a few people that I can talk to, but I mean,
it's really
I'm
not
still
that hard.
Well, my focus is whatever I do is going to be affiliated with FMP. Therefore, I want to make sure that I'm putting my best boots forward.
Well, just the thought process. But find the people that you feel would do good, would be good for the team, and then put them in touch with Coop or with Markham or, with Corey, and get them to check it out, get them to do whatever they do to ascertain the veracity of it or the functionality of it, and then move forward from there.
Okay, doo-doo. But I have my own team, and it really wasn't hard to, get it together. I've always had an interest in the paranormal, and then certain things happened where I came out of the paranormal closet, and I was like, I need to help people. I know how to do this, and so, it started as 3, and then, we have a group of about 8 to 10 now, and with different, abilities and aspects with them and everything. And all you got to do is advertise on Facebook with your own page, and this is what we're looking for. We've recently had a psychologist apply, so we're excited about that. But
that's fantastic.
It's really not hard. Yeah, it's really not hard, and it's really, one of the best things that has happened in my life, I really enjoy it, and I like it.
I'll get with you offline and see about putting some stuff together, because this area needs it bad, and I'm itching to get out there.
Well, and you've already got a team together. It just happens to be a little on the limited side as far as breadth of scope goes. But at least you've got a place to start already.
Yeah.
And you don't really
well done
want
on
a
that.
ton of people, The smaller the team that goes in, the better. If you have 15 people, it's hard to get everybody in there, and some people get their feelings hurt. But, you can't cram a place full of people just because everybody wants to go. You have to go, by need of the client.
Yeah, when you're taking care of a client, it's their needs first. Hurt feelings can just write me a report on your hurt feelings, and we'll deal with it in the right time frame.
Isn't that File 13?
Right, absolutely. It's a circular file that's, lit once a month. Absolutely.
I tell you what, though, there is a really nice thing about having a psychologist on your team. We've had the great opportunity to have a couple of them on our team, especially for the aftercare part of it, and it's mighty handy.
Oh, absolutely. I can imagine.
Oh yeah. I mean, Lord knows. I went to enough psychiatrists that have all said, you're perfectly normal. But having that, I mean, I paid a fortune to get those diagnoses, but the reality is, having somebody that
that's like bribery, isn't it?
Gee, I thought it was just called purchase. But, in all fairness, my dad actually confirmed the whole thing on his deathbed. So, I look at that and go, apparently I'm not nuts, just really different. But having a psychologist on your team that can help you understand that what you're going through fits the bill of it really is happening. It's not just your imagination, can make things so much easier, from the coping standpoint.
Right.
Well, it also separates the real paranormal case from the attention whores and the grandstanders, too.
Absolutely.
And it brings validity to a paranormal team that actually has a psychiatrist, actually has a scientist, as well as the astral. So it brings a balance to the entire case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually found out tonight we have an astral member of our team. I didn't realize she was. I was like, holy crap. So she's going to apply through your page, and, I told her we'd add her onto the aftercare team or astral team because she's on that realm. So that was pretty cool.
Right. Excellent. So we're getting down to our last 8 minutes of the show, and I know next week we have the Forest Moon Paranormal Team show. So, next week's going to be a pretty lively show based on the fact that it's been a crazy month.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's an understatement.
And actually, I believe one of the team members is going to make it to the show because she's actually going to be en route here.
We're in hopes,
so the core team is actually all moving to concrete.
I know,
so,
it's pretty interesting to watch. They're all migrating.
Oh, so thank you for everyone. Right. So thank you for everyone being on the panel. Any last thoughts?
Well, today has gone way too fast, but I must say, this is an odd day. We didn't lose Coop.
Yes, we did. I was I was just quick, and I caught it and got him right back.
He was good.
Oh, okay.
Good at hiding.
Corey was watching for it.
This was fun. I'm looking forward to
Corey
next
was
week.
watching.
I've got my ear trained to it. I hear that little noise that Skype makes when one drops, and it's like, grab it real quick, and Cooper, get him back in.
Well, love, light, and joy to everybody.
Yeah.
So, this has been a pretty good show. You know, we've covered a lot of stuff and some stuff pretty deeply. My goodness, I mean, especially that our beginning topic of brain activity after death. Holy wow!
Talk about a can of worms that one opened.
Boy, did it, you know. And that's great, you know, because as I'm watching the chat room, the listeners are loving it. You know, I saw one guy that kind of was miffed that we were talking about transhumanism and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's just a debate, man. You know, you got to get with it. A lot of people like this stuff. You know, it's mind provoking, thought provoking. So, but yeah, this has been great. This has been great for sure.
Yeah, I always love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, right.
I went for our local listeners real quick.
Right now. This has been fun.
For our local listeners, we are now back on KSVU every Saturday from 10 p.m. Pacific to midnight, and that's for the local Upper Skagit listeners.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, nice.
Congratulations.
Nice to be back on the terrestrial again. We kind of lost it there for a little bit because we had some people whining that shouldn't have been. But, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, you know, it's kind of nice to be able to get our voices out over the actual airwaves. It's kind of cool. So, anybody else got any last thoughts, or we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up with a neat little bow?
I kind of do, just real quick, on the brain function and activity. It kind of reminded me of the concepts of taking a Xerox and then you photocopy the Xerox and you just keep photocopying the last photocopy. That's what that conversation reminded me of, you know, how much of the soul is completely transferred along with each copy.
How much of the soul is fractured?
Right.
I
don't even think it's a matter of fracture. I don't think the soul is something. I don't think the soul exists in a form that can be downloaded to anything.
I think it would have to be.
You'd have to be. I think you can download everything else. You can, even if it was memory. I just don't think it's I don't think it's tangible enough.
Well, especially
tell you what. Tell you what. Do some research. Do some more deeper research on it. We'll actually make it a topic of one of our shows coming up.
Oh yeah, I think we could easily do 2 hours.
Our time frame.
Oh yeah.
Deal. Yeah, that is a can of worms. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the deal?
What do you want me to research? Okay.
There's enough material to cover a 2-hour show just on that topic alone. Because if you go into soul fracture, soul retrieval, there's a whole lot more you can go into.
Yeah.
And then replicate. You'd have to deal with replicate fade once. You know, the copy of a copy of a copy, it becomes replicate fade, and then you'd have, you know, you can do that if you kept cloning the same, even with, like a physical clone, you keep cloning somebody from a clone, you get replicate fade that way, so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Have you seen that movie, Multiplicity, with Michael Keaton? And he kept doing that, making copies of copies of copies of copies of copies, and the last one was like, special. He like ended up sleeping with his wife and was like, she touched my pee.
Okay, we're gonna go really sideways here.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's not good to make copies of copies because they're not clear and they end up smudged. It's not good.
Okay. All right, guys. I tell you what. I'd like everybody to hold on here for just a second, as I'm going to go ahead and start getting this thing all wrapped up real nice here. I would like to thank our panel tonight, Mr. Eric Markham, our Force Moon Paranormal Scientist, our Keith Andrews, astrologer and alien specialist for Force Moon Paranormal, Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson of Four Corners Paranormal, and Sam Cat Wynn of Force Moon Paranormal Aftercare Team. Join us next Saturday at midnight Pacific Standard Time as we have our monthly team show, where we're going to bring team members from Force Moon Paranormal on to discuss things of the last month or so. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. I would like to thank all of our listeners, because without you, there is no S4. Good night, and remember, keep your eyes to the skies.